20 years now I've been exploring the world in a sea kayak. They're so strong and seaworthy, you can go anywhere. This is a story of a journey to Papua New Guinea, where everyone's into magic.
Their magic, well, they don't even look at it as magic so much. It's just day-to-day life, you know. It's in everything they do. It's in everything they look at. With the sorcerer power, they can create their own reality. I'm Larry Gray, and I live in a spot called Malakuta, which is down the southeastern tip of Australia. Not far from home, there's this amazing seal colony which we often go down to. And there's thousands of seals, and there's baby ones, there's mothers and fathers, and they're all yelping. It sounds like a farm. In the kayak, you can tip upside down because you've got your splash cover on, you know, you're totally waterproof. There might be 100 seals underneath you. The eyes are all watching you the whole time. It's almost eerie.
One went round my face this way and it's going to come up. This is my friend Bryce. He was busting to come along with me to Papua New Guinea as a sound recordist.
In 1986, I kayaked 1,000 kilometres down the coast of Greenland. And I could see all this wind picking up rocks and the surface of the water. And all the Eskimos were dead scared of it. And I learned that it was a pittorak. I've experienced 3 of them now in my kayak, and I've been so scared. We've just made it. I mean, we've really almost died out here because of pittoraks. The whole time I'm thinking of designing a kayak, and I'm making sketches. And what am I going to call it? Kayak, pittorak, it just goes together. So in Malakuta, at this shed outside my place, is where it all began. I started shaping up a pittorak, and I knew by the name of what it was going to be in its nature. So I designed it for harsh climates, and I designed it to handle long-distance touring.
Yanni! My name's Helen Morecambe, and life with Larry Gray certainly is exciting. Ever since I've known Larry, he's been into wild and wonderful things, and he's always developing some idea or some dream. This bicycle seat is something that Larry's developed.
Going to go get some shopping, some pizzas, then we'll go down the beach after. Good idea?
Yep, because it's really fun.
Right, yeah.
Oh, okay.
On me.
Body wave.
Yep.
Okay, we're
And
ready.
the surfboard wave.
You hold on to here. Mummy's driving.
The idea of doing this trip in Papua New Guinea was conceived just before we conceived Yanni, and Yanni was at an age that I could leave her. I wasn't going to let being a mother stop me from doing something like this.
Searching around for a support boat for the journey, I knew Laurie Piper.
Come on, Jonah! Shade it on! That's the go!
He's like a modern-day pirate, I mean, but he's a great soul, Laurie.
Try and get that working, Jeb. Shade it up. Flying Jeb now!
The Atlanta is actually owned on paper by Laurie's daughter, Jana. She owns it, he sails it, and I think she gives the orders as well. Our kayaking journey will take place along the Ring of Fire, where there's over 150 active volcanoes.
Hang on to Joanna, she wants to have a look. Come on, Sue's going to hold on.
Because of her actual live experience out there on the boat, she picked up knowledge of the world. Now, she's way advanced on most kids that are stuck indoors.
You're all right, that's okay, we got you.
The local volcanology research centre picks up 200 movements a day.
On your knees.
We're heading now for the Tabar Islands. We're going to be cutting across to New Ireland, around the southern coast down to New Britain, and down the southern coast of New Britain to mainland Papua New Guinea. We're going to travel something like 2,000 kilometres or more. Up ahead, beginning of the journey, Simbaria, which is the main island of Tabar Group. Five years ago I've been planning this trip, and I met Noah. I knew that he lived on the Tabar Island Group, home of the shark callers. He wanted to come along. His family cut out all these stencils with leaves and made all these Mulligan magic shapes to celebrate sort of Noah leaving and heading off on the journey.
Oh yeah, this name.
We renamed the Pitarac Double Noah's Ark.
Of course, being the savior of all the races here. Right?
Wow, like that.
Noah will be fantastic on board. I mean, he's just a great character, and he's a one-talk, so he can speak to everybody along the way. He relates really well.
It's gonna be a new experience in this canoe. But I learned it in school that Eskimo people have the kind of canoe called kayak, and I think this looks like a kayak. It's gonna be my first time to travel such a long distance. It's the longest that I've taken in my life.
This is Rourke. He's a rock climber, but he hasn't done any sea kayaking before. He's going to spend a lot of time upside down and pumping the boat out. The biggest problem was Eskimo rolling. He was very sure he'd have it down in such a short time. And he'd almost get it. He'd get right up there to his on the teetering balance and back he'd go, splash down again. This is where we leave Atlanta, but we agreed to stay in radio contact. The Tabar Islanders put on this special farewell ceremony for us. And he just won't get it up. It's just a small knack. If you just a twist of a wrist, it's just a flick of the hips and he'll get it. You know, he's got this problem with getting it up. The Masalai spirit is everywhere, all over Papua New Guinea. He has many powers. It can be a storm, it can reform itself into the shape of a snake. It's in the minds of every Papua New Guinean, and they respect, live and die by the Masalai. I never go anywhere without the didgeridoo in the back of the kayak. You can relate to the people so well. So it's time to leave Tabar Islands.
This journey is something like 40 kilometres. We might clock up today, across the strait, very hot, but we'll get there.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
This is going to be an amazing journey for Noah because he's never experienced outside of his own land. So now we're saying goodbye to his native island to follow the coastline down to the shark callers.
Only certain village men have these spiritual relationships with these sharks, which they believe are their ancestors.
Okay, he's ready to show us how they do it.
He's got this rattle, it's like a school of struggling fish. He has a tiny little bait fish on the end of a stick, and according to the magic and the preparation of the shark caller, you can call the correct shark for the noose.
When you notice that the shark has come through the noose, then you pull the top of the rope there, and the rope tightens around the neck of the shark. And as it struggles on, the rope tightens up.
He died now. Kill him, die, finish.
And now,
Big shark. Lick.
big one.
Yeah, big one.
Look down below us, and there happens to be the biggest shark I've ever seen in my life. It was one of those enormous whale sharks, and she was just cruising gently along. And perhaps it was something to do with the magic of the shark callers. And he says that the spirit of the shark comes to the shark caller. It's not unlucky, it's a lucky shark. There are bad sharks out there, ones that will wreck and destroy. But in his mind, because of his training and his magic, the lucky shark will be attracted to him.
Now, he finished.
I'm sure that by being so in tune with nature, these people actually work magic. A lot of the stuff to us seems all bizarre and confusing, but everything has meaning to them, and they really often are working within the laws of nature.
These people don't believe in luck. Everything's created in the world. There's no such thing as luck. There's no room for it. In their bones, they believe it's magic, and they create their reality. Kayaking along the coast, I could hear this puffing and roaring. The air would sort of fill up into this big cavern, then the swell would pressurise it, and then it would explode out. Noah was incredible. I thought, well, he's going to think, oh, these crazy white people, what the hell did I want to go near these things for? They look totally dangerous. But, you know, he loved it. And if you were to get sucked into one of those caverns and spat out, I mean, you'd be blown out in pieces. And then Rourke was upside down. I thought, if he doesn't get this rolling into gear, he could actually get sucked back into one of these caves. Bang, he gives it a go, and the last possible second, he just tips the scales and over he goes, up. Fantastic.
and be making the big crossing from the Tabar Islands, and we've been in the kayaks at that stage for about 8 hours, and I was looking forward to stretching my legs and getting out.
One of the nicest parts to each day is pulling ashore and setting up camp. Anywhere we like, amongst beautiful beaches, and feel like no one's ever been there before. As I go to a place, it inspires a feeling. And then I can just start creating music for the area. Just over the ridge, not far from where we've pulled up and camped, it turned out to be the most amazing bat cave. It's like a honeycomb landscape with razor-sharp limestone pinnacles. We heard about a magic man through Noah that lived not far away from the cave, and apparently he works what's known as skull magic to make good weather, or to kill people, to heal people, anything like that.
So can you now make us some welcome skull magic to make sun for nice clear kayaking? No
Yes,
shark
yes,
he come?
yes.
No
But-
crocodile he come?
No got, no got.
Nobody?
Yes.
No problem?
No problem. No got worry. And
Full
he
safe.
can go long canoe or something, locally sack. No, have something.
No big waves or storm?
Yes, yes,
You make him calm weather?
yes.
He decided to give our trip a blessing.
Aking kita, ina, katamak.
They're skulls from old sorcerers, old rainmakers. When he dies, he says that his skull will go back into the cave. The young kids that he's taught to be magicians will use his magic out of his skull to create the weather, to control everything.
Kupla.
We made our way down the southern coast of New Ireland, round the tip, then cut across to New Britain mainland to Rabaul. The active volcano in Rabaul Harbour is Mataput. It went off some time ago, and it actually drained the water out of the entire harbour of Rabaul and then come back as a tidal wave and just killed thousands of people. Wherever there are volcanoes around the coastline, there's also the deepest waters.
It's only 1 metre deep on one side of the paddle and 1,000 metres deep on the other side.
Come and look at this, it's fantastic! Oh, this enormous tunnel extends for miles. We're going to need some torches, though, it's pretty dark.
Rabaul was the Japanese headquarters during the Battle of the Coral Sea. This spot was a submarine base.
Hello down there.
There are over 300 kilometres of tunnels under Rabaul.
I understand some of these are booby traps, old tunnels are booby trapped, still trapped.
And you bring us into here.
Well, you know, you went first. I mean, if there's a problem, you would let us know.
Okay, move on.
Let's go, let's keep going. Let's see another one. Taxi helmets up here. That looks like a, that's a magazine of a machine gun, isn't it? For sure.
Yeah, it does look like that, doesn't it? The bits and pieces, the helmets.
I don't know what's a...
Hole in it. Fancy wearing that for the whole war and then he gets shot in the head. Really not. Wouldn't you be?
Yeah, it's pretty creepy in here, isn't it? It's musty and... These were built during the Battle of the Coral Sea, and everyone was at war in Papua New Guinea, and these poor local people, I'm sure they must have wondered what was going on. No, it wasn't a war of their own. Yeah, sniper gunpoint. There's Noah!
Up here, Noah! fish?
No! I haven't caught any fish.
I can see plenty down here.
My hooks are too small.
On one island we experienced 6 earthquakes. It's just a constant flow of tectonic plates just thrusting against one another. Rabaul is living on borrowed time before it blows its stack again. You know, it's going to happen, everybody knows it. But when, it's just a gamble. We headed in from Rabaul to visit the binding fire dancers.
It's flat, no. You're not good. Hey, but...
When we arrived at the bindings, Larry gave everyone a bit of a blast. They loved it, and that was when Alan Mavali coined the phrase, some fella different, and I think that's a pretty appropriate name for Larry, because he's some fella very different.
This one belongs Australian Aborigine. Yes, yeah, look, called Australian didgeridoo.
They saw him as being different to most of perhaps the white people that they'd met in the past.
Drawn by the music, these strange spirit creatures come out from the jungle. So they perform this most amazing fire dance. It's been going for thousands of years, and it's a way of reaching out for the spirit world, contacting the spirits of snakes, different animals, different creatures. And you got to watch yourself, because now and then they work up to such a frenzy that they boot the wood and you can get showered in these hot coals. The binding chief said, "Larry, this dance is for you. You must come and dance." So I got this enormous run up and just bolted at it. And one made a quick touch with my foot on a log and just leapt through and out. And it wasn't too bad. And I looked around, Bryce is doing the same thing, and he's shuffling off into a trance state. So away we went, and I was trying to better him, jumping around like this, in and out of the flames. We're now heading down the southeast coast of New Britain. This is Anita Long. She's come all the way up from Wales in the United Kingdom.
I've done a fair bit of kayaking, a bit of river, a little bit of sea kayaking. Something tells me I haven't done enough kayaking.
We are on our way to Kanakuva, the world's largest cave opening. This limestone country is laced with underground rivers, and when the jungle roof caves in, it creates these enormous sinkholes. The cave owners signal to the spirits. The spirits of the dead live in the cave. Anita and Rourke are both experienced rock climbers. Rourke's game enough to actually abseil into the cave mouth.
We've thrown down 2 ropes so far, and trouble is they're getting all tangled up in all the greenery and what have you. You know, when I'm at home I love gardening. We have no idea how long we'd need again to go from this point. After the rim we know we've got a clean abseil. The rock chute finishes a good 50 metres below us, and I believe that's where the rim is, in which case we're very short of rope, and it's a very long way up.
The rest of us had to bush bash our way down through the jungle.
Congratulations! Yeah, that was fantastic! Oh, wow! I don't know about you, but the adrenaline was bombing through me just watching it.
The rope didn't reach the bottom. I mean, and Rourke didn't even know decide that it was going to reach it or not. It just happened to be that when he put his weight on it, it stretched all the way down and touched the bottom.
Just enough rope.
No, he did a fantastic job.
It's a pretty committing thing. It's about 180 metres hanging free. Biggest cave in the world, mate. Biggest cave opening. Huge, isn't it? Yeah. Huge amount of water too. Yeah.
I mean, these rivers, you only get a glance, and the other end, the only time you see is where it's gushing out into the ocean. We'd not long left the caves, actually, and not far away, there we find this river outlet. It was just like a letterbox slot in the side of a mountain cliff covered in jungle. It was just spewing water out at an enormous rate. Bryce and I, we decided we couldn't resist it. Let's just paddle up there and have a bit of a drink and a wash, even though we had heard that 2 Americans had actually drowned up there, up in that same outlet. That's one of the great things about a sea kayak, is you can just sort of cut across a bar and head up a river. We'd heard stories about the blowgun hunters. We travelled south to find them. This old chap started pulling out this enormous blowgun. He must have had the world's largest lungs to blow this arrow, because I think the whole length of the pipe would have taken up more than a lungful of air.
Hey. Can you hear anything? It's me. Come in, let them see you. I wonder, they must have sort of cut and knock out the little baffles in the bamboo and join them up with sap to get that hardness.
And the arrows are so beautifully made. They're crafted. They use the feathers of birds from around the breast area. He gave us a demo. They push it up through the branches quietly. It may only be about like 10 metres or so from the animal. Then they can look right along such enormous length. They've got a fairly good chance of knocking it out of the tree. And he took a few deep breaths, and all this concentration and energy, and you could hear it go out the end, disappeared way up into the sky. Something like 40 or 50 metres way up, almost out of sight. And then a few seconds later, thunk, into the ground. It's landed. Oh, that was pretty close.
Yeah, I couldn't help but noticing this little piglet who was trying to get any drop of milk from any passing dog or whatever it could find. I don't think the dog had much to give.
They said, oh, we'll take off and go up to this cave where we always go. We wash our kids there and we get our fresh water, and everybody sort of jumped on board.
I commented on the paradise that I thought that these villagers were living in. One man said to me, yes, we are very much ahead of our time here. And I asked him what he actually meant by that. And he said, well, you in the West, you know, you want to grow your own food and build your own homes and have clean air and clean water and be self-sufficient. He said, we have that already. And he said, and so we are ahead of our time. We have everything.
Tens of thousands of years ago, the Austronesians migrated their way through Papua New Guinea and colonised the Pacific. They probably started off in little bamboo craft like this, things just bound together in a simple fashion, and then eventually chipped their way into the most advanced sailing craft in the world. These magnificent proas, they're able to cover immense distances with a lot of speed. It's amazing what these people can do with such simple tools as a bush axe or an adze. How do you judge the thickness of the wall of a log? When you start from the outside, then you go from the inside. It's very difficult, not bursting through the side. Whatever comes out of the bush they can utilise. Just a work of art, put together without the use of a nail, nothing modern used at all.
A little bit of twine's been handmade and woven into this magnificent net with shells as weights and bits of driftwood as floaters.
Catch lots of fish. I hope. You're very hungry.
One of the things which really intrigued the people of Papua New Guinea was the double-ended paddle. It was designed and developed in the Arctic. And this old paddle maker, Max was his name, he had his name inscribed on his adze. And he was fascinated by the paddle. He thought, well, it's not going to be too hard to make this at all, you know, it's just a matter of one log and simply doing the same on both ends. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if next time I go back there's a few floating around.
Yeah, so we go, so we battle all of them.
Yeah, the same, like this one.
Yeah.
Like this one? Yeah.
We're doing all the same too.
You know, if me long live here, I get you make me one out of wood.
Yeah.
Because I like wood.
Okay.
This
So
pellet
I
here,
made him. I made him belong you.
This pellet here not so strong. It's fiberglass.
Yeah.
But it breaks. Look. I'll show you.
So you hot by break.
Yeah.
You go on stone.
Yeah.
He break.
Yeah. Back in Australia, me make 'em paddle. My job. I me work 'em canoe.
Oh, also me
Yeah,
walk
me-
in the paddle. Me
Yeah.
walk in canoe too.
Yes, me. That's my job.
Yeah.
Hey, Kupla.
I am good.
Am now.
We approached Ritter Island way out in the middle of the Whittier Strait. It was an active volcano a few years ago. We found that there was nowhere you could really land and camp. The ocean floor was bottomless, it's like thousands of metres deep below, and it was an ideal opportunity, I thought, to test out the chimeran. Chimeran is the name I gave to the marrying of two kayaks together. I arranged the rigging on the chimeran to suit the tent, and I wasn't really sure of how it's going to hold together, whether it could handle up to rough seas or how it would really go. We were warned earlier on about the spirit, the Masalai of the island of Ritter, and that if you make too much noise or if you disturb the spirit in such a way, it will cause rough seas and violent winds and heavy storms. And Noah also reconfirmed that. And then we were laughing and carrying on because it just happened to be Rourke's birthday. I noticed that the speckle of rain started on the roof, and harder it became, and the wind started to whistle, and then it started flapping, and Noah's saying, "Larry, we have disturbed the masolai of the island, you know this."
Yeah, quality of steam. This is really boiling, man. It's okay. It looks beautiful. Alright, so hang up. Let's scold ourselves. Catch. Alright. While it's going, we need to... It's great for doing the dishes, eh? It's the biggest kitchen sink I've ever did sing. Night, guys.
Good night. Night, Noah. Night, Les.
At first light, we disassembled the tent, flung the tent inside the kayaks, put up the parafoils in the sky, and downwind we went. And it felt pretty strange for a while. You know, and I thought to myself, I really should have tested this rig out back home in Malakuta, but there just wasn't time. Like, it was a dream that came up at the last minute when we were about to head off to Papua New Guinea. Heading across to Tabar Island. And I just noticed something went crunch. A rubber block, which was held on by Velcro, it had come loose and started to fall apart. The front hull dived under, and that was it. Next minute we were in the water. I thought to myself, look, we really need Atlanta.
Atlanta, you read, over. Atlanta, come in.
Yeah, this is Atlanta. Is that you, Mobile One? Over.
Yes. Sure is, mate. We just experienced a total breakup just off Tabar Island. If you can get yourself over here as soon as possible, over.
Yeah, roger, mate. I'm on my way.
With a big ship there. I'm on my way here, mate.
Over. What happened, Noah? We escaped in time. One was exhausted.
One of my dreams was to go to Long Island, to actually get out there and kayak on this hot lake. And now I hear that it's near on boiling. In fact, the centre is so hot that you could cook an egg in it. We were offered the use of this albino buffalo named Rambo. Rambo was stubborn and hard to get moving, so the driver reached down and grabbed his scrotum. Rambo shot off like a rocket. When Rambo couldn't go any further, we carried the kayaks in. And we just come to this edge. I thought, what? How are we going to get them down here? I mean, if you drop one, the kayak would just take off by itself and start slithering its way down to the lake. will be the first and last kayaks this Cuscus is ever going to see. Long Island had actually erupted inside the lake and heated the temperature up to around boiling point. I could feel the heat rising, and I thought, well, if I can smell resin, I mean, it's too hot to get into. I mean, if you tip upside down in a kayak in here, you may come up and poach your head. And it was that hot.
Hey, this is quite warm, Noah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not so hot.
It's not boiling, but it's you wouldn't want to swim in it.
Can you stay in it for a minute?
I wouldn't like to. Wow. Shit. I just had my hot wash for the day.
By this stage, Noah was thinking that we're totally mad. I mean, he's saying, you know, you are completely mad, you dim-dim. Dim-dim means a white fella. He didn't have to come down into it, but he did. He climbed down the vines, straight down into the double kayak, and, you know, wanted to go exploring too. I heard that another volcano within the volcano had formed underneath, and it was pushing its way up to the surface of the lake. So it was, in fact, boiling out near the middle. We're now heading west towards the most densely populated island on Earth, and that's Aramit Island. Aramit is only 1 hectare, but there are over 2,000 people living on it.
This island has a reputation of being the most populated in the entire Pacific. And up here is the only place I can really find any peace and my own space. Have a cup of tea without being interrupted and some muesli. So.
Cheers!
We were actually swarmed by literally hundreds of canoes full of children and young adults, and they swarmed around us and formed like a pack ice effect where at the point we had absolutely no control where we were going, and they just led us into this island. And I remember feeling this sort of strange ominous feeling, because just by sheer numbers it was quite overwhelming to have these children sort of take us in, you know. And we got to the shore of this island and it was just teeming with people.
Yeah, they seem totally amazed with just the idea of being able to tip a kayak upside down and come up again without any water in it. Yeah, it's only like a hectare, if that, and it's dead flat, and there are hardly any trees, just what's been planted there. And the whole attraction to Aramit is this stone. It originally started off with a rock that was sticking out at sea, and apparently it was really good fishing out there. So a few hunters decided to stay out there, put up camp and fish off the island. And it becomes so popular that they extended it, brought more and more shells in there and more sand, and built up the whole island and flattened it off to such an extent that it's just the tip of the stone sticking out of the dirt in the middle of the island. And they're all drawn to the stone because of, oh, maybe it's magic, or maybe it's just because of the way the island had formed.
Okay, 10 ton em 9 kau olivo. Alright, 10 ton em as blowing or sen plan.
Jacob said the name of this stone is Kaoliwo, and this stone brings the people together on this island. That's why they cannot leave this island. Even if they go and work in Ley or in other main centers, they always have to come back here because of the stone.
Or you must come back to Long Island. And now all is long before you.
The Tamboan hold the spiritual power here on Aramit Island. It's scary. It's an island that you really must know and obey, because the Tamboan goes way back into the spirit world, and it's very much feared, and the idea is that nobody knows who is inside.
I'd begun to accept that in a lot of parts of Papua New Guinea there were areas that women just were not allowed to go. But I was totally unprepared to be told that there was a certain area the Tabar Islands came out from. I was told that if I'd actually stumbled across and gone into that area, then I would have been raped and murdered by any number of men that were there. And the fact that I was white would have made no difference at all. There was nothing that I could have done about it. I was there living under their laws. It wasn't until then that I realised the seriousness of the boundaries that men place on women in Papua New Guinea.
You falter, you just make one mistake by the Tamboan and you're a dead man or woman, you're dead. It had that feeling to me, and the island was too small for that. It was so tiny, I mean, God. The kids start by carving the world's largest fruit bowls and end up by making the world's biggest canoes. And they're cut out of a single tree. They hollow it out and they leave the ribs intact. These huge canoes are known as mons. One of the most impressive sights to me with a mon would have to be looking along the centre line of the hull. It was remarkably straight. It just was so impressive, the fact that they could get it so perfect. Are we witnessing the end of an era?
There are over 700 dozers working out here in these islands, and the people are going to have to go further inland to get decent logs, because obviously these ones are of high priority.
They're felling enormous amounts of rainforests right throughout these islands.
In a lot of these places where the logging is taking place, they still deal in shell money. The loggers come in and they start employing people and only paying them 60 toa a day, which is about $1 a day. And most people I spoke to felt that really deep down it wasn't the right thing to do.
They had a gut feeling, didn't they?
Yeah, I think that they'd just like to know how to stop it and find a way around it.
So canoes could be a thing of the past.
When you come to consider the cost of fiberglass boat and all that, they still need, the canoe nowadays. It's getting a bit difficult now for everyone to own a canoe because of logging.
I just felt like I've spent only 5 minutes with these people, and I could spend a lifetime, really. These people are our neighbours. There really is only one ocean, and it covers the entire planet. And this is just the beginning. I want to kayak the world. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, I'm imagining.
Or would you like to be there? Don't laugh, take it serious. This is my dream. I've been doing this for years. Let's go and do it.
Let's do it.
magic is just looking at things differently. That's a really liberating idea.